Sukhvinder Sandhu for business premises located at 2303 128 West Cordova Street in Vancouver. Before we begin, I have some opening remarks. This hearing is being convened by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, City of Vancouver Electronic Meetings, and as such, panel members may participate in person or by electronic means. In case of an emergency, if we need to evacuate the building, I'd like to direct your attention to the exits. There are 2 exits beyond the glass doors and to the left. If the glass doors are obstructed, please direct your attention to the 4 exits in this chamber. And please use the stairs and not the elevator. I would also like to highlight that there is a defibrillator located at the end of the hallway outside of the council chamber. We acknowledge that we are located on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We thank them for having cared for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. I would also like to take a moment to recognize the immense contributions of the City of Vancouver's team members who work hard every day to help make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Councillor Meissner is in the chair. Councillor Montague. Councillor Klassen. You have quorum, Chair Meissner.
Thank you. So we'll now start with opening remarks from Ian Dixon, Council for the City of Vancouver. Good morning.
Hi. Microphone's on now. Just quick introductions. This is a business license hearing panel, and it's to consider the suspension of the license that was issued to Mr. Sandhu. Mr. Sandhu's present here without counsel, as I understand it, and Ms. Hicks will be the witness for the city. I'm not going to go through, as I often do, the powers to suspend a license and read that to you. I think you're well aware of that at this point. This is an appeal from a suspension of a 2024 business license, which was suspended in mid-December. So the matter hasn't come for hearing until today. So I would just note for council, because this has become an issue at times, that your decision today is about whether to uphold the license suspension that was made in December of 2024. So in some ways that is moot, as 2024 is now over. However, we do proceed with these regardless because although it's not binding on the Chief License Inspector, whatever decision you make today will be a consideration for the Chief License Inspector in whether or not to issue a 2025 license to Mr. Sandhu for this particular property. It's not binding at this point. So I just make that note because that is a live issue in other proceedings. So you have broad powers to consider whether or not to uphold or reject the suspension that was issued, and it's advisable that you provide reasons for that, in particular in a case like this where it will be informative of the 2025 license. In short, today's hearing is a dispute about whether or not this is Mr. Sandhu's principal residence or not. When you hear the evidence from the city, you'll see that the city is unconvinced that it is his principal residence, and as a result has suspended his 2024 license, as the bylaw requires it to be your principal residence in order to operate a short-term rental. That being said, the city's first witness is Ms. Hicks, the chief license inspector. I don't know why I still have deputy on my notes here. I already had to update that by now. Ms. Hicks, you're the chief license inspector for the city of Vancouver?
I am.
And you're familiar with Mr. Sandhu, is that correct?
I am.
And this license is issued for a property on Cordova, is that correct? 2303 123 West Cordova?
128 West Cordova, yes.
I'm sorry, 128. I misread getting used to my reading glasses as well. And that's in the center of Vancouver, and it's a condo we're dealing with, correct?
It is.
Can you explain to the panel your experience with Mr. Sandhu and the reasons why we're here today?
Certainly. We're here today for a decision to suspend the license for Mr. Sandhu for his short-term rental business license. We received a complaint related to Mr. Sandhu's license and that they did not believe that this was his principal residence, so we began an audit. During that audit, we go back and we look at the history of the particular unit and the particular individuals involved. You can see from the timeline in tab 2 that Mr. Sandhu had a previous short-term rental license in 2019. We began an audit of that license and had not received any information from Sandhu, so the license was suspended.
Sorry, Chair, I don't want to interrupt Ms. Hicks here, but you referred to tabs. Our packages just have page numbers, so if we were able to do
I don't have page numbers.
You don't have page numbers?
We need to resolve this problem. It's occurred before. Normally, Ms. Hicks has page numbers. I do. We should endeavor to get tabs.
Great.
To the electronic.
Thank you. It's just much easier for council to
I will
follow
speak to
along
the
here.
clerks about that.
Great.
It's something we need to solve.
Thanks.
I'm not sure exactly where that's fallen apart.
All right, page 4.
Page 4? Okay, thank you. Please continue.
So in the top part of page 4, I was going over the prior history of the property and the licensee. Thank you. After the suspension, a warning letter was sent warning Mr. Sandhu to remove the license or to remove the listing as it had still been active. In July of 2023, Mr. Sandhu applied for another license at the property. There was a verification process that occurred, and the license was ultimately issued. Fast forward to June of this year when a complaint was received, or June of 2024, I apologize, when a complaint was received questioning Mr. Sandhu's principal residency. We began an audit process at that time, receiving documents over time through Mr. Sandhu. Moving into page 5, when an inspection in September occurred at the property. That inspection, which I will go to in a moment, showed that the unit was empty and did not show that it appeared to be a principal residence. Further to that, an audit meeting occurred with staff. During that audit meeting, questions were asked of Mr. Sandhu about his operation. It appears as though Mr. Sandhu lives at his family home in New Westminster for the majority of the time, as opposed to this residence, as this residence is booked largely, more than 80% of the time, on short-term rental basis. After a decision was made to suspend the license in November of 2024, the listing continued to remain active. A warning was sent to Mr. Sandhu to remove the listing. We do see that the listing was removed, but it did go up and come down a number of times after that, and shows that bookings did occur during that time. Moving to page 50 are where the photos begin to show the state of the unit during the inspection from the property use inspector. You can see from the photos that the listing or that the unit is vacant, while there are a couple of shirts. When looking at the kitchen, while the fridge does show some condiments, otherwise the unit is vacant. The audit that staff conducted with Mr. Sandhu begins on page 87. Through these notes, staff asked Mr. Sandhu a number of questions about his history with the unit, why we had not received any communication from him from the first audit in 2019, saying that he had not received strata authorization, so therefore didn't communicate with us, discussing the previous address history that he holds through the New Westminster address, his family home, as well as one in Richmond, which had been shared with a partner. Further to that, he described that he travels or he stays, at other places or with family while his unit is booked. We do not have travel documents at this time to support the story of travel. Staff also asked why documents such as taxation, property taxation documents, and strata communication continued to list the New Westminster home. That information is key information that you would typically have sent to your home, to where you are living, and that those two pieces of documentation continue to go to the home in New Westminster, to the family home. And then further into the document, apologize, on page 89, there is information from Rob where he describes that he takes care of his father and that he always has a room at his family home in order to stay. So it is on the basis of that information and the high bookings of this unit, along with a complaint of principal residency, that we substantially do not believe that Rob, Mr. Sandhu, lives in this unit as his principal residence.
We should have a look at tab 9,
Page 50.
page 50. I don't have those. Can you just explain those photographs, when they were taken and what they revealed?
Certainly. The photographs were taken during a property use inspection on September 20th. When looking through the photos, you can see that the residence is devoid of personal belongings. While there are a couple of shirts hung in the closet, it is otherwise vacant by all appearances, set up to operate as a short-term rental location. And as mentioned earlier, there's while there's a photo with some condiments in there, that is the fridge and freezer are otherwise empty as well.
And do you have any other concerns with regard to Mr. Sandhu complying with the short-term rental bylaw?
I think the concern is that the listing, despite being warned in 2019 about continuing to list without a substantive license, and then warned again after the suspension this November, the listing continued to go up and down and host rentals, at least until January.
January of this year.
Correct.
And the license suspension, just for clarity for the panel, was when exactly?
November 20th, 2024.
So there were rentals after that time.
Yes.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, if you have any questions for the witness, please place yourself on the speaker's queue. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Couple of questions. Is there, just looking through the package here, is there screenshots of or listings of when the unit was rented out? You mentioned that it was booked 80% of the time, but is there something that I could visually see out of the 110 pages?
There are calendar bookings provided. They begin on page 39. These calendars were gathered during the summer, so during July. So the months of August, September, and further on into 2024 are not complete, but you can see back through the history of the unit from July 2023 forward that the unit is heavily booked.
Okay. And can you remind the panel of the rules around the number of days the unit can be rented, et cetera, et cetera?
The bylaw doesn't contain a number of days in which you must reside in or are eligible to book a unit. First and foremost, the bylaw says that it must be your home. You must live within that unit. So that is the test that we're looking at today.
Okay, so there's no set, so what parameters then do you and your staff use to determine whether or not it's a principal residence? Is this not so many days a month or months per year, or is it based on how much time you spend in the apartment?
I think it's a combination of information. We look at a typical set of documentation that somebody can provide to us that would show that it's their home. We also combine that information with the calendars and the information that they're providing us about why it is booked the way it is. In this particular case, the information that Mr. Sandhu provided us leads us to believe that he primarily lives at his family home as opposed to in this unit.
Okay. And how is the city required to comply with provincial regulation around short-term rentals as far as durations of stay and that sort of thing?
So the city cannot create regulations that would be more lenient than the province. We can create regulations that are stricter than the province, but not more lenient. So the provincial definition says that it is the place that you live more than anywhere else, and that any stay that is less than 90 days is what a short-term rental is, which now matches the definition of the City of Vancouver.
Okay, so short-term rental is considered anything shorter than 90 days, and as according to the province, it would require, in order for it to be considered a principal residence, it would be, you'd have to live there at least 6 months and a day, basically, is what you're saying.
It doesn't set a timeline. It says that it is the place that you stay longer than anywhere else.
Okay. Okay, so if you're bouncing around, you could technically stay in a place for 2 months at a time as if you're staying in 6 different places.
It allows for that contemplation, and then the applicant would be required to prove, again, that where that information lies so that it is clear to the province in that particular circumstance that that is their principal residence.
Okay, I'm just trying to just make sure that everyone understands exactly the definition of principal residence. So, and me as well, considering we have to make a decision on this. I noticed in the calendar there's looks like there's stays for 2 days at a time, 3 days at a time. That's not compliant with provincial regulation.
It is.
It is compliant.
Anything less than 90 days.
This is a 2-bedroom unit, is that correct?
It is.
Okay. Are we, or I guess, do we have any evidence that the owner was renting out both bedrooms, or is there reason to believe that they've been renting out maybe one bedroom and staying in the other?
The listing shows that it is an entire home with 2 bedrooms, and we didn't see evidence in the reviews that it would indicate a shared rental.
Okay. And just to clarify, if there was a rental set up in that fashion where it was a 2-bedroom and the owner was living in 1 bedroom and renting out the 2nd bedroom, that would be permitted, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then you mentioned travel documents. Did the city request travel documents from the owner?
It was discussed in the meeting, but not a follow-up was not requested.
Okay.
We're always open to receiving those.
Okay. But we didn't receive any travel documents?
No.
Okay. Okay. That's it for questions for me. Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else on the queue for questions. So does the licensee have any questions for the witness? That would be you.
Did I follow all the rules in obtaining a license through the City of Vancouver?
My decision to suspend your license.
That wasn't the question that I asked. I asked, did the City of Vancouver give me a license to operate a short-term rental in 2024?
The City of Vancouver issued you a license in 2023.
And
then
2024.
And then enabled it to be renewed.
Correct. So I did fulfill all the requirements through the city of Vancouver, correct?
During the initial application, a base verification was done. A complete audit was not, so I can't comment about whether or not you were fully in compliance with the regulations.
Again, did the city of Vancouver issue me a license in 2023 and 2024? It's a simple yes or no
She
answer.
answered it.
Okay, if she answered it, then she answered it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now move on to opening remarks from the licensee. So please go ahead.
Gotta just bear with me. In 2023, I applied for a short-term rental license. I fulfilled all the requirements by the city of Vancouver. They issued me a license. I operated the license in a good standing manner. In 2024, I renewed my license. It was granted again because I fulfilled all the requirements. The complaint that was received to the city of Vancouver was by a certain individual that had a vendetta against my building. We were all targeted. I think there was about 10 individuals. The conversation I had with the inspector that came and viewed my place, he also mentioned that. He was also aware of the group chat that all the tenants had. So the city of Vancouver was targeting our unit. I didn't break any rules. The only rule that I broke was renting it too many times in the city's eyes. This is all based on an assumption. This is my primary residence. I do live there. My car is parked there. The city gave me a license. I think the city's just targeting me because of the building that I live at. For future, I just want to be able to renew my license and still operating in a good standing manner like I always did and I always will. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So we will now have the licensee call any witnesses.
I don't have any witnesses.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any I guess, Ian, can you just clarify, because there's no witnesses here, would panel members still be able to ask questions of the licensee?
We take that opening statement as his testimony effect.
Okay, but panel members could ask questions of the
Absolutely,
licensee?
yes.
Okay, and this would be the time? Okay, thank you. So panel members, if you have any questions for the licensee, please place yourself on the speaker's queue, and I see a few people. So Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm just looking through the calendar of dates you're renting the apartment out, and I haven't been able to go through all of them just yet. I'm going to ask for a short recess between now and a decision to just sort of go through some of the evidence that I haven't had a chance to go through yet. But like in January of 2024, it was rented for all but 6 days. February all but 8 days. April all but 4 days. Where are you living during this time?
Like depending on the calendar, I would go visit a cousin in Blaine or even spend some time with family. I want to air out my dirty laundry, but there was certain stuff going on in my personal life.
Yeah, I don't need specifics. I'm just sort of
so
trying to get an
I would
idea as
stay,
to.
I would stay at certain friends' house, other places. I would just plan out my month.
Okay. Was there any particular places that you would say? Was it mostly
More
with
than
family?
often, I would stay at my parents' house. I do have a bedroom there. My brother lives there with his family. There's 2 kids. Sometimes my mom needs a break from taking care of my dad.
Okay.
So my dad's 74. I wanted to spend some time with him while I can. So, I mean, does the city of Vancouver have a problem with that?
No, I'm just trying to understand
No problem.
the issues a matter of whether it's your principal residence. So I'm just trying to determine in my own mind,
No, fair.
if a reason, if a reasonable person could make the decision whether or not this is your principal residence.
Yeah,
So,
no.
Okay.
My brother has 2 kids. He lives there with his family. They need a break sometimes from taking care of my dad. He has a lot to deal with. So whenever that place was booked, I had the option of going over to my parents' house.
Okay. It was mentioned that you travel. Do you travel for work or?
No, I don't travel for work.
Okay. I think those are my questions right now, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Montague. Councillor Klassen.
Yeah, thanks. Through you, Chair, I just have a quick follow-up question to staff. And it's just in relation to the proof of the primary residence. I did see some ICBC driver's license information updates, and I was just trying to track those a little bit. Were there numerous changes to the address for the driver's license?
The driver's license, the ICBC history shows that Mr. Sukhvinder went from his family home to the unit in question, then to a location in Richmond, which we understand he shared with a partner, and then the address change to the unit again.
Okay. And just in terms, and so the time for those address changes overlaps with the time of the actual licensed short-term rental. So 2023, 2024, the principal residence was shown as down on Cordova Street.
The 2023 license does, yes. I don't recall the 2019.
Okay. Okay. And actually, I'll maybe through you, Chair, I'll ask a question of the applicant. You in your sort of statement, you talk about being having a very simple lifestyle is in defense of questions around the lack of any personal belongings. Where do you keep the most of your clothing and other sort of daily needs if they're not in the actual apartment itself?
Most of my belongings were at the apartment itself.
So the belongings that were in the photographs are your belongings. So kind of
They're about 75% of my belongings, yes.
okay. And so having no attire or just sort of typical things that you might find in drawers and closets, just the fact that they are not present and the fact that there's
Are you trying
no.
to judge me of like how many clothes I have? I mean,
No, I'm just asking like the photos are often used as ways of just sort of indicating the presence of sort of people living there, and so just looking at the contents of the fridge and the closets.
are you judging me of how much food I have in my fridge now?
I would just ask the licensee to please be respectful when speaking
No,
with the
fair enough.
councillors. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. It's just a basic question, and it's not a judgment. It's just the statement that your simple lifestyle is a reflection of that is probably fine. But I thought you might want to elaborate on that a little bit.
I am a single man. I don't cook much. Have a banana in the morning. I eat out a lot. As for clothes, I do have a couple of pairs of t-shirts and shorts at my parents' house, just depending on the weather.
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce. So, I mean, some of my things were there. It was a slow move. It wasn't easy dealing with that. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation before, but again, I'm a simple man. Um,
That's fine. I just wanted to just expand upon that a little bit. I appreciate that.
no problem.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I can appreciate being single. When I was single, I purchased an apartment that I sold 2 years later. And when I moved out, the oven still had a cardboard insert in it. So I understand. I understand a lack of food in the fridge potentially. Are you currently employed?
No,
Okay.
self-employed.
Self-employed, doing.
I build houses.
Oh, okay. So do you own your own business, or do you work for family or friends?
It's
Or
like a family business.
okay. And is that mostly within the Lower Mainland, or in Vancouver, or
Mostly in the Lower Mainland, unless I get a contract to work outside the Lower Mainland.
okay? And is it mostly, when you say Lower Mainland, mostly Vancouver, or is it kind of any municipality?
Just Lower Mainland, Vancouver.
Okay. Did I notice it? Sorry, bear with me one moment here. Is the property currently for sale?
The property is currently for sale.
Okay. And are you the only individual on title?
No, my father's on. No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so does the city's council have any questions for the witnesses?
I have no questions.
Thank you. We'll now move to closing submissions by the city's
I would just
council.
ask with the panel's indulgence just to recall Ms. Hicks for a moment to clarify about the application process. Ms. Hicks, can you explain how the process for applying for a license works for a short-term rental license?
Certainly. Short-term rental licenses are applied for online. The majority of those licenses are auto-issued by the system. They're held back if, in Mr. Sandhu's case, because there had been a history where a license had been suspended, causing the verification where we check base documentation. And then licensing after that, our system goes through a renewal that unless it is held back, licenses are issued once payment is made for the renewal.
So it would be fair to say that the only time that you do an investigation to determine whether all the requirements of the bylaw are being met is when there's an audit.
Correct.
So prior to that, you don't know whether you're relying on the representations of the person who made the application.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, thank you both. We'll now move to any closing submissions by the licensee.
I just want to say that I have followed all the rules the city required me in 2023 and 2024. Sure, I rent, like I'm at fault for renting it out 80% of the time, but in the future, all I'm asking is to have my license renewed. In the future, I plan on staying in Vancouver more often than I did before. I've met all the requirements, and I'll still meet all the requirements. I just think that I'm being targeted by the city of Vancouver, and this is all based on an assumption and not actual facts. This is my principal residence. My car's parked there. My license says that I live there. My mail comes there. That's all I can say is this is my primary residence, and the fact that one person complained against me and the city is targeting me, I just think it's totally unfair. I was born and raised in Vancouver. Right now, I have to deal with the United States president. I have to deal with the Prime Minister of Canada. I have to deal with the BC Premier, and now I have to battle with the city of Vancouver for a place that I've lived for 46 years. And I have not done anything wrong, and I just feel like the city should let me have my license back. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. So we'll now move to discussion by the panel. Panel members, if you'd like to make any remarks, please place yourself on the speaker's queue. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm wondering if I could ask for maybe a 10 or 15-minute recess just to go over some of the documents a little more closely now that some of them have been explained and
Sure.
discussed.
Yeah. Would 10 minutes be sufficient?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, we'll have a recess for 10 minutes and we'll return at 10:16 a.m. Thanks. back to discussion by the panel member and panel members, that is. And Councillor Montague, I see you on the queue, and I also received a motion from you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I guess a few comments before I discuss the motion. I don't necessarily agree with all the rules and regulations, whether they're provincial or municipal regulations around short-term rentals. I have my own personal thoughts on what those rules and regulations should be, but that's not my job here today. My job is to not to judge the rules and regulations and policies, but to determine whether or not those policies and rules have been followed. And the question here today before me is basic. Is this the principal residence of Mr. Sandhu? I'm a minimalist myself. I don't have. When I was living on my own, I had very few possessions. But when I look at some of the other evidence, particularly the calendars, it's hard for me to get to a point where I can reach the conclusion that this is Mr. Sandhu's principal residence. So I have sent a motion to the clerks to uphold the chief license inspector's decision. And I'll be obviously supporting that.
So, great, thanks. So that motion is moved by Councillor Montague and seconded by Councillor Klassen. Okay, so we'll now vote on that motion, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. And no one opposed, so that carries unanimously. So, just a moment here. So, someone like to move a motion to adjourn? Okay, seconded by Councillor Klassen. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so that motion carries and this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.